Have you ever wanted to pass the cup or pass the plate? Have you ever been at the dinner table and somebody's passing around the food? It's something, maybe it's broccoli and you don't like it and you want to pass it on to somebody else because you don't want to partake of it. Have you ever wanted to pass the cup of suffering or trials or tribulation or persecution or grief or sorrow? Have you ever wanted just to pass the cup on, to let it skip you and pass it on to somebody else? I want to take us back to the Garden of Gethsemane this morning. This has really just spoke to my heart. That helps me realize that whatever I'm going through right now, it's not nearly what Christ went through to give us the freedom in Him that we have. I want you to be encouraged this morning as I take you back to the Garden of Gethsemane in Matthew chapter 26. He's getting ready to go pray in the garden. He's asking the disciples to stay there, and he says that then he said to them, "My soul is very sorrowful, even unto death. Wait here and keep watch for me." Are you sorrowful right now? Is your soul sorrowful? Do you feel just overwhelmed and overpowered by whatever it is that you're facing right now? He said he went a little farther to the garden and he prayed. He said he fell on his face and he says, "Oh, my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me." Have you ever prayed that? God, if it's your will, Lord, if there's another way, Lord, could you just let this pass from me? I don't want to endure this. I do not want to go through this. Just pass the cup, God. And it says that, he says, "But nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will." What if we faced every trial, every cup of suffering and pain and whatever it may be that we're dealing with? What if we was asking Him, "Lord, if I don't have to go through it, please don't make me, but Lord, your will is what matters, not my will." And so as we move on down there, when you get to verse, let's see, I think it's verse 39. Then he went back to the disciples and went back to pray again. And he says in verse 42, "Oh, my Father, if this cup cannot pass away." So if you notice in the first part, he says, if it is possible, God, to let this happen. But in verse 42 says, "If this cannot pass away from me unless I drink it, your will be done." He's thinking, if there's no other way, God, to set my people free, God, if there's no other way to get rid of the penalty of sin, if there's no other way to provide eternity in heaven, God, if there's no other way, your will, God, I will drink of this cup. And I want you to think about there in your life right now, if you're thinking, is there any other way, God? Is there any other way to get past this? He thought about you and me. He was overwhelmed. He was sorrowful unto death, but he knew that there had to be a penalty paid for our sin to give us the freedom to be free in Him. So whatever cup that you're trying to be passed today, I know it's not nearly as difficult as the cup that he was asking if it was possible to pass. Sometimes we have to drink of a cup that's for somebody else, not just for ourselves. And today when you face, or someone's trying to pass you the cup of whatever it may be that you're dealing with, remember Jesus' response. "Lord, if there's another way, let it pass, God. But if not, your will, not my will." May today we have courage and strength and faith in Him, that when we are being passed a cup, that we will seek Him first and say, "God, not my will, but your will. I'm willing to drink of the cup that you're passing me. I may not understand it. I may never understand it, and I may never know why, but I know, God, that your will is greater than my will, and your plan is greater than my plan, and you know more than I know, that you've already seen tomorrow and the next day and the next year. So, God, I'm going to trust you. When this cup is passed to me, God, I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to face it because of what example that Christ gave me. Don't pass the cup. Don't pass the cup.